Please don't cringe. Okay. Ooh, pressure's on now. Achoo. Right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be doing a quick analysis, which should only take about 4 or 5 hours, of my world record. I'm kidding. Of my world record. This is my 54, my magnum opus, which means my best run ever. And I'm going to do a bit of analysis. I'm going to talk you through it. And hit that note. No, okay. I'm also reading chat. Apologies. I'm going to try and analyze this run as best as I can. And I'll talk you through the mistakes, but also what I think about for the most part when I'm playing, what I think about and what I'm doing, and the various things that can go wrong. And I'd like to explain it not only so that a casual, a person who's, well, yeah, a filthy casual like yourself, or an actual speedrunner of this game can appreciate it and learn something new. There's only 3 top speedrunners of this game, and even IID now, he has amazing gameplay, but of course he's fallen a bit behind. I want to just analyze this and let people kind of learn something new, no matter what skill level you are, unless you're Jayhawk or IID, essentially. I'm just going to be dumping my knowledge. Anyway, so first things first, obviously I'm just walking in a straight line as fast as I can to the onion. Now that goes without saying, you might think, but this game is like Mario Kart with extra steps. Think about it like Mario Kart, and then you'll always be going in a straight line. That's the most important thing. Later on in Forest Naval and whatever, we're moving around. I see so many Pikmin speedrunners of lower levels, of mid-levels, still walking in zigzags because they don't really know what's going on. It's better to walk at something in a straight line and just get there fast, right? Obviously. And you just pick a line and commit to it. Anyway. I guess there's not much to talk about here, so let me just explain the world record progression. Hello, Shotgun. There. I'll be doing a world record progression video. That'll be coming out in about a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, of both Pikmin 1 Wii and Pikmin 1 Gamecube. But basically, it started out early days, right? There were 8-day runs of this game, and then someone found a way to get it down to 7, and then people thought, well, can we do Forest of Hope in a day as well? And it's IID, the legend. He is the one that developed the 6-day run as an RTA category that people can do. And I think the first ever RTA 6-day was a 103.46, around that level, right? IID totally smashed it and showed people that don't need to be that slow anymore. You can get a 6-day run, and from then on, since the 103, we've optimized it on NTSCU, this version that I'm playing. We've optimized it down just ridiculously far, down to 54.31, which is my record, which is the one you're watching commentary for right now. One thing I want to point out, I suppose I haven't actually talked about the gameplay yet. Sometimes, when you start this 5 pellet, a Pikmin can let go, because the way that Pikmin grab on, they randomly pick a point, and if another Pikmin grabs that point before they get there, they move on to another point or time out and let go. If they let go, reset. There's no point carrying on. It sometimes happens that a Pikmin will grab onto the 5 pellet and let go, and it's just not fun. I am going to be skipping around a little bit. Oh yeah, and one other thing. Dude, should I just restart? Oh, we're back here, are we? So yeah, actually, I will talk about this. Why not? Before this cutscene starts, I position Olimar so that when I press the C stick down, immediately that red Pikmin will grab onto the pellet immediately, right? So I position Olimar, which is something you might overlook as well. I position Olimar perfectly on the top left of the pellet, and you can mess around with this yourself. I'd recommend just experimenting with it yourself. But I'm going to C stick down, and immediately, no matter which spot the Pikmin goes to, it will pick up the pellet. You want to pluck as fast as possible, but the limiting factor, as long as the pellet doesn't reach the onion before you're done plucking, you don't lose any time, right? So a Pikmin might let go of the pellet, and if it does, just reset. There's no point carrying on. Now, you'll see me do something that I'm not going to recommend. But the thing is, I got such good RNG on this pluck that plucking 2 was worth it. The best thing you can do is pluck 1 Pikmin, throw it on the 5 pellet, and then pluck another Pikmin, because the 5 pellet is actually the limiting factor at that point. Because the Pikmin that gets sprouted from the 5 pellet will limit you from pushing the box, and that's the next limiting factor. Limiting factor is just, of course, the thing that's stopping you from advancing, and the box is the big limiting factor of this section. The 5 pellet is actually the limiting factor before you get to the box. Anyway, so they sprout, and I get another amazing set of RNG, just 3 next to each other, and then I throw them on the box. Easy peasy. And I guess one more thing to point out, this is a knowledge dump, so if you're not interested in everything I'm thinking about, maybe this isn't the video for you. But I am going to be absolutely dumping all of my knowledge. You see where I throw these red Pikmin? I throw them on purpose at this spot, because if I throw them too far to the right, then they'll slip off. And if I throw them a little bit further to the left, they'll slip off the left as well. So look here, right? You see these 2 Pikmin, they actually slide up. And sometimes, if you throw them towards the left of the box, they'll slide off the box. And that wastes a tiny bit of time. I didn't lose any time to it this run, but sometimes you can lose time to it. So just make sure you throw your Pikmin right in the middle of the box. Go back and have a look. Right in the middle, and then to the right. I call it kind of like 1/3, 2/3, right? So on the 2/3 mark, that's where you'll be aiming to throw your Pikmin. So the limiting factor in this section is actually the far red pellet. So you want to get the far red pellet moving with 2 Pikmin as soon as possible. So I let go at the shadow of the leaves there, and God, this video is going to take ages. I was kidding about 4 hours, but who knows? Yeah, we'll just speed it up. You'll pluck all of your Pikmin, and then you'll speed up the 5 pellet as well. So you wait here now, actually, because you can have 2 things happening at once. In Pikmin speedrunning, if you can have 2 things happening at once, it's better, right? It's better to have 2 things happening at once, rather than 1 thing and then the next thing. So I trigger that cutscene as soon as the final pellet reaches the ship. You see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, I'm watching the pellet, and as soon as it reaches the onion, that's when I trigger the cutscene, because Pikmin can sprout during the main engine cutscene. And you see, as I get back, they're already sprouted, and I can start plucking. Right, now is an instance of forced pulse loading. I won't go too much into it. Pulse loading I'll explain later, but it's basically when you stagger the loading of a part so that Pikmin won't let go. The same thing happens on the 5 pellet. If a Pikmin lets go of the 5 pellet or the main engine, reset. If you see a Pikmin let go of the main engine, as much as it might pain you, I guess at the top level you have to reset. Yeah, I'm not telling you to reset on that, actually. It's not that big a pain. But, I mean, it's up to you, I suppose, if you want to reset on something stupid. Anyway, so the next thing I do is I grab, as soon as I'm done plucking here, I grab a Pikmin as soon as possible and long throw it with momentum. So if I'm moving while I release A, while holding a Pikmin, it'll throw the Pikmin much longer, much further. And then I'll speed it up. Okay, easy, impact site, and we're in. I'll skip this part and I'll get into it, because I've probably wasted your time in impact site way more than anyone cares to. I think everyone's probably skipped to this point of the video anyway. So hello, everyone who skipped to this point of the video. If you haven't, unlucky, you watched a very boring part. But here we are. So, Forest of Hope, the good stuff. Also, I have no idea what a wave bird is. To this day, what is a wave bird? No. Just cause. Right. There's actually nothing to explain. This is actually probably the least important section in the whole game. It is actually well cleaned. I always clean my hands before I weird like that. If you ever meet me, you'll go, he doesn't. You'll go, he smells clean and fresh because he cares about his hygiene. And yeah, just throw the Pikmin on the red posy, pulse it so that it picks up the pellet, and then you're in. It's really that easy. As soon as you can, start throwing these Pikmin. So pluck the two if they're close to each other, and then throw the third if it's not arrived yet. It kind of depends, but yeah, I suppose this isn't that important to worry about. So I'm not going to go too crazy of explaining the crazy things that I think about. Just plug the Pikmin and throw them on the gate. There's really nothing to think about. Okay, so here's the fun part. Hooray! I actually react to the sound effect of the Pikmin finishing the gate. React to the sound effect, then whistle them off. You need a piece of nectar from this grass. There's an 8% chance that with each individual pluck, a nectar is produced. And there are 30 bits of nectar that can possibly potentially be produced because there are 30 patches in the ground. Right, there are 30 grass blades that can be plucked per patch there. And that just so happens to work out to about an 8% chance that you don't get nectar at all. And if you don't get nectar, it's not a reset until you're at like 6-day level. But if you get to 6-day level and you don't get nectar from that, you're kind of a bit screwed. Right, so let's actually explain some stuff. What I'm doing here is actually momentum throwing while also moving and C-sticking. So I'm currently holding the controller like this. I've got my right hand on the A button and on the C-stick at the same time, and I'm walking towards the 10 pellets so that I can start throwing as soon as possible. As soon as I'm in the range to throw for the 10 pellet, I'll start. The next thing I'll do is I'll kind of be able to, I'll react to the position of these bulbs. Now, I did actually get very lucky that they were both looking away from me. If they're looking forwards, they might react to your presence and then be slightly harder to hit. Also, because they're quite close to each other, it was quite easy. I just throw one and then spam it a bit. Right, this section, I'm doing another claw throw. You don't have to do this. It's optional. But I like to do it where look at this, right? I'm moving forwards exactly the same as with the 10 pellet. I'm left hand on the thumb, left thumb on the analog stick, right thumb on the C stick, and right fingers on the A button. I'm absolutely spamming these. How many Pikmin did I throw there? Like 8? 9? I'm spamming, right? Absolutely spamming. And you'll see why I did that. Because look at this. One of the Pikmin actually, by chance, I didn't plan that. Well, I sort of did. But by chance, one Pikmin picked up that red pellet. So that saved time, didn't it? So the first thing you do is destroy those posies. Next thing you do is grab the red pellet and then clean up any others that don't get grabbed onto. It's really tricky. That's more high level than I would expect medium level runners to get into. Just destroying the posies, then start the pellet, then get the rest of the pellets. That's probably what you'll be wanting to do. Right, so let's just move on. This section is absolutely practice dependent. It was the most mess-uppy section you'll ever see. In fact, I made a mistake here because I threw the Pikmin onto the yellow pellet, right? I threw a Pikmin, and look at this. Look how close I was to the yellow pellet. I'm probably stuttering way too much, but look how close I was aiming. My cursor is basically on the yellow pellet, and yet the Pikmin grabbed the red pellet because this game is brilliant and everyone should play it. That's the reason. So yeah, it picked up the red pellet. That wasn't really my mistake. I could have probably thrown further to the side, and in retrospect, yes. In fact, sorry, I keep going back, but in retrospect, I should have thrown the Pikmin below the yellow pellet, not above it. I should have thrown it below here, or momentum thrown it, but it didn't work that way. It doesn't really matter though, as long as you grow extras, and as long as you get to 77 Pikmin, then you're fine. So 8 Pikmin, I just C-stick them into the water, and I whistle twice to make sure that any that I potentially missed, I always get. It's because, yeah, you see here again, I'm whistling twice, because you might have bumped into some of them, reset their drown timer, and you need them to come, you need them to react to your whistle again. So see, when you bump into Pikmin, there's a chance that you reset their drown timer, and also their whistled flag, right? There's a flag that happens when you whistle them, when they're drowning. And you can reset that flag by bumping into them. So always make sure you whistle again. You whistle once for the whole group, and when you're bumping into them, and then you whistle again to make sure that they come to you. Now, this bit's important as well. Jesus Christ, this video is going to be long. Right. See exactly where I'm standing. This is a a trapezium-shaped island. Stand on the second corner, not on the shore. Don't stand there because they'll don't stand there because they will they'll re-drown. Their drown timers will reset right at the water. But if you mess up this throw, and you actually drown them slightly, or they walk into the water, it's really actually easy for you. Just stand on. Stop that, please. Dude. Lovely. I see. I see what's going on. Yeah. You know, that's really fucking annoying. You interrupted my flow. Guess I'll just have to edit it out. Right. Right, so I drown the Pikmin. The easiest thing that you can do is actually just walk into the water and whistle them straight away. You don't have to throw them like this. This is actually just because it's faster and they come onto the ground faster, right? Instead, what you could do is you could just walk into the water and then whistle them and stand not where I stand, but if you stand right on the shore, right where Olimar is now, but closer to the wall, if you stand there, then the Pikmin will actually re-drown, no matter how bad, how slow you were with the whistle. You should be totally safe. None of the Pikmin should drown. Absolutely none of them should drown. If you stand exactly there, close to the wall. But what I do is I stand here because it's faster and they immediately come onto the land instead of re-drowning and then you have to whistle them again. Anyway, that's just one small thing. You should never actually reset to that section because yeah, I mean, you should never have deaths at that section. You basically do the thing that your level is most suited for, right? Either the slow, consistent thing or the slightly faster thing that's slightly less consistent. Right, so let's talk about this for a moment. If you're so fast that you beat any sprouts, just whistle your 20 and start growing. But sometimes you'll have a couple sprouts ready, and if that happens, just pluck a Pikmin. Just one is fine. You lose almost no time for plucking a Pikmin. If there are two right next to each other, in fact, for lower levels, I do recommend plucking two no matter what. But doing it with 20 is just fine, as long as you don't waste too many Pikmin on all of the grows, because you will have to do a third growth phase. So anyway, so right here, you'll notice that I'm kind of spamming the posies down. I want to kill all of them. That's my priority. And then I'll kill the Bulborb. I'm not gonna start collecting this Bulborb. I'll get him later. But notice that I was spamming, like I did with the growth phase 1, I'm spamming these posies. And actually 2 of them got picked up, which is so fast and it's so good. But 2 of them got picked up, not because I was aiming for that necessarily, but because I just threw loads of Pikmin around and it worked out. The worst thing that you would get is when 2 Pikmin are picking up a single pellet, and then in that case you would just whistle them back. But I'm more of an urgent player. I like to spam a lot of stuff. You can do it more controlled, more slowly. It depends what suits your playstyle. But for me, it works out to be faster because I've picked up those pellets. So 5 on that, then I'll collect the Bulborb. And at this point, I know how many Pikmin I've got left. 4 on the bridge. Don't put any leaves on the bridge. If you have any leaves left over, which I haven't even talked about yet, if you have any leaves left over from the grass patch that you haven't been able to flower all of your Pikmin, you have any leaves left over, they should have gone on the red 10 pellet, and then you should put them on the 5 pellet if you're able to in the second growth phase. Don't take the red pellets. Don't take any leaves to the bridges with you. All right. Next thing you'll see me do, I need to get a minimum of 77 reds. So I'll just finish up these red pellets. That's the third growth phase. That's like a 2.5 growth phase, I suppose. The optimal number for this gate is actually 44. Or is it? It's between 41 and 44. But it doesn't really matter. Just keep going. Keep plucking until you can't pluck anymore. And I got to 42. There weren't any more Pikmin sprouts to get. But then they were still being readied up. They were still being produced by the onion and getting ready. So, yeah. Remember that I was talking about this game as Mario Kart. I'm literally just picking my line, changing the camera so that I'm always moving forwards. Don't be in the overhead camera because you actually move slightly slower. Your character moves very, very slightly slower if you're going anywhere but up and down. So I'm just going to finish up plucking. You kind of need to play a little bit of a mini game. I call this the mini game because you need to pick, and very quickly, it's like a little puzzle. You need to pick, right, which sprout do I pluck now so that I can finish plucking as soon as possible? And that's the mini game, right? So the one I go for is the one that I was most close to because it was such an even spread that I couldn't come up with one. But sometimes you'll have lots on one side and a big gap. You always want to start where the start of a gap is. Right, you want to start plucking right at the start of a gap. But there, it was pretty consistent all the way around, so I just went to the Pikmin that was closest to me. Right, let's get on with it, shall we? Enough of this. So, you don't have to wait very long for this gate to go, but one thing I want to mention is that don't throw Pikmin. You see, I could have thrown those Pikmin to get the gate down slightly faster. But what I want to do is just walk into the gate and C-stick throw, because there's a different state that your Pikmin get put into. If you just throw versus C-sticking. If you throw your Pikmin, they'll actually be less likely and less receptive to grab onto things. You'll see that later in Distant Spring. When I was throwing Pikmin, they were less receptive to attacking the snitch bug. But because I didn't throw on this gate, they immediately pick up and attach to the gate, which is awesome. So I then do the same thing with the little Bulbulb. I'll just swarm into him. There we go, easy as that. And now I'll toss a Pikmin to the side. That Pikmin is to help me knock down one of the pellet posies so that I can grow enough yellows, which I need the bare minimum of 15 yellows. Now, for you, I'd recommend until you get comfortable enough, I'd recommend you grow 15 yellows. Now, this only loses about 5 to 10 seconds. The reason I didn't do it is because it lost 5 to 10 seconds. But for the amount of consistency that growing extra yellows gives you, is just ridiculous. And it doesn't even matter if you grow the bare minimum number of reds because you've got extra yellows, right? So you've still got 2 extras. You can have 2 deaths and you'll be fine. So the power of extra yellows is so phenomenal. You'll be resetting so little in Forest of Hope. So if you're growing extra yellows, the first thing you'll want to do is instead of throwing one red to the side like I did, a red flower, by the way, I throw 2 red flowers to the side and I knock down both posies. That's it. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. Anthony, if that was you, I told you to stop and you carried on, and I'm not very happy. Okay, so you'd knock down both posies. You know what? You could do that anyway, because it makes throwing on much easier, and then the Pikmin don't attach to the wrong posy rather than the pellet. Anyway, so I actually messed up here a little bit. My little strat that I do here is I whistle off first, and then I'll throw the red immediately, the other red that I have with me, because he's the first one. But I actually missed, and I throw a yellow by mistake. So you want to throw 1 red, and be constantly C-sticking back, then throw the other 2 yellows, load up the pellet, and then throw the final red on the Bulbulb, but I messed it up. Now pluck 3 Pikmin. You can sometimes pluck 4 to speed up the Bulbulb, but the limiting factor, and the thing, not the limiting factor, but the thing that speeds this up, right? You want to get this cutscene with the bomb, as late as possible so that you can collect these bulb orbs. You need to collect these objects before the bomb cutscene, because it's like I was talking about with the the main engine. Sprouts can come up out of the onion during cutscenes, right? So it saves time. It didn't work out that time because I made that mistake. Anyway, so I'm going to long throw these to the gate because that saves time in walking, and I'm going to dismiss them right in front of the can. Pikmin will dismiss to their mean location. So imagine dots on a map, and they'll dismiss, or try to dismiss anyway if they can. They'll dismiss to their mean location, right? So if there are three Pikmin, they'll try to dismiss together into that middle of where they are. So aim for that middle point to be right in front of the can, and it'll be fine. Now, I actually left a Pikmin ready to be plucked earlier. Don't do that. Just pluck all of your Pikmin. I made a mistake there because of it. Right, so now here's what I'm doing. Now, this box actually caused me a lot of trouble until even recently. This box is really, really a massive pain. So what you'll want to do is you'll C-stick fully up and to the left to avoid waking up that bulb orb. Avoid the little bulb orb, but it doesn't matter too much. You might be paranoid about it, but it doesn't matter too much. Right, run right onto the rim of the box. This takes a while of practice, and you need to be now C-sticking to the right. Okay, C-stick away from the box. This is really important, otherwise the Pikmin will dismiss themselves. You want to get only flower Pikmin on top of that box. If you have to use leaves, you've messed up. So you'll throw just like that. As easy as that. You see, they didn't dismiss themselves because I had the perfect position on the box rim. And I'm C-sticking only left and right, and mostly with a right bias. So only about 10%, maybe 20% of the time did I C-stick fully left. And there we go. I threw them on the box. The next thing you want to do, the dismiss can sometimes lead to a massive problem. Sometimes the Pikmin will run into the water. Sometimes they'll run away, and it'll be a horrible, horrible mess, right? So what I do is I C-stick fully away from the box, wait until they stop moving, and then press X. This makes the yellows, did you see that? It makes the yellows go backwards rather than into the water, and it makes the reds stay where they are rather than running into the left pool. This is really, really important. See that? Perfect. They didn't go anywhere, basically. If your Pikmin are going all over the shop, C-stick, all you have to do is so simple. C-stick back until they stop moving, or, you know, use your best intuition, and then press X. And wouldn't you know it, you can get past the box easy peasy. Now, the next thing I do, oh, by the way, if there's a Pikmin inside the box, you can whistle it out without stopping the box from going, but that's kind of precision whistling. It's up to you if you want to do that, or you can wait until the box is done. If there are Pikmin still inside the box, try to avoid Pikmin getting inside the box at all. Right, so I load up the side just because it kind of groups up your Pikmin together, and then anyway, when I whistle, simply all I do is push forwards on the C-stick. And as long as you have urgency and you begin moving as soon as possible, see how far away I am from my Pikmin. See how far away I am. That's because I have urgency, and as soon as I whistle, I was off, right? I didn't check to make sure that I had all my Pikmin. I just shot off. This is called urgency. Urgency is really, really important, and in this, it actually makes it easier. You might think it might be more sloppy, right? But I get across the bridge so easily just by holding simply C up and then alternating C up, C down, C up, C down, C up, C down, like that. I get across the bridge because they tighten up perfectly because I'm urgent. Okay, so Snag Rats. This bit's important as well. I know there's a lot that I'm pausing for, but I'm literally dumping all of my knowledge. This is perhaps a good resource for mid to wannabe high-level runners. So, notice how the Snag Rat pops up out of the ground. Here he is. He pops up out of the ground to the right-hand side of this island. If you just walk in a straight line from this box, if you Mario Kart this section, you will skim the wall there, and he'll pop up in front of you. He'll block your path and maybe eat some Pikmin. If you C-stick, on the other hand, to the right and wake him up with the Pikmin, if you wake the Snag Rat up to the right-hand side, you can then juke him, go left, and completely avoid him. Pikmin are what wake up the Snag Rats, so simply use your Pikmin, get as close to that spot where the Snag Rat is, and then run away. Swarm exactly where he left, exactly where he went underground, simply swarm that, and if you get the slow kill, you'll do a perfect kill, and he'll die. Now, that was a good noon. A good noon for mid-level, I would say, is pushing the box or just after the box, and a great noon is, for a top-level player, getting your Pikmin nectared on the grass. So, Geiger counter collection. The minimum that you want on Geiger counter on all parts is 23. If you have 22, they sometimes make it. 21, 20 even can make it, but they might get eaten by the bulbs on the way back because they do wake up bulbs. So I actually went for a max load there and failed. They only got 24. So the actual fastest thing you can do is dismiss onto it like I did there. I dismiss onto it. They grab on, and then I whistle my Pikmin out of the grass so that I have reds first, and then I whistle again so that I get the idle, now flowered Pikmin with me. I'm able to grab a red because I whistled the reds first. Then I'll start throwing on the Geiger counter. I wanted to throw 14 because there were 9 that I dismissed onto it, right? I wanted to throw 14, which is 2 groups of 7. I would have pressed A 7 times, then another 7 times. And then 23, you should be fine to just move on. 23 and then just walk away. But I made a mistake here. I wasn't counting. Maybe I was a bit excited that I had such good RNG. I was talking, I had a few things that went wrong, and I had to follow it until the Pikmin let go. That's not what you want at all. And there's one other thing as well I want to mention before I move out of the Snag Rat arena. After I whistle the Pikmin off of the Snag Rat, look at this. I grab a flower Pikmin. Now, there's actually a flower Pikmin in my group still, which I can then use to flower all of the Pikmin. You want to get only flower Pikmin working on the grass so that the leaves will then be able to be flowered as well. Because if there are some leaves working on the grass, they might not be able to be flowered because they're not under your control. I think that makes sense. So try and grab a flower Pikmin. Now, you can also use, if there aren't any flower Pikmin in your group and you've swarmed all of the Pikmin onto the Snag Rat, you can use the fact that flower Pikmin are actually faster than leaf Pikmin, obviously. So what I do is I actually, after I whistle off of the Snag Rat, I run away from the Snag Rat, sticking away from it as far as I can, run towards the wall at the bottom left there, and then I run back towards the Snag Rat right as they've separated so that there is some flower Pikmin separate from the leaf Pikmin. Then I'll grab the flower Pikmin, and grabbing a flower Pikmin is what you want to do at this step. Grab a flower Pikmin, simply throw it, and C-stick onto the grass. I got such good RNG here, it's absolutely mind-boggling. But if you don't get good RNG, it can actually be really difficult to flower all of your Pikmin with one nectar. So I can't really explain it with this video because of how amazing my nectar RNG was, but what I have to do is I actually run through my bombs. So I actually run up and down and C-sticking up in the opposite directions and letting it go to neutral C-stick as well, so that the bombs separate. Because they actually, if they clip inside each other, if the bombs clip inside each other, they actually prevent each other from getting flowered, and all your other Pikmin as well. You don't want that. So let the stick return to neutral, run through your bombs, and they will separate slightly, just enough so that you can then get the nectar if it comes out. So simply put all of your yellows in the bomb can, swarm enough. You don't have to really do all of them. Don't beat the devil out of it. Get the EFD. Right, so you want to beat... you want to beat the EFD so that you can get the cutscene skip. I just plucked there because it lost no time, but really, just pluck all your Pikmin. There's no point. Right, so I C-stick fully into the right-hand side of the gate, and then C-sticking fully forwards and doing a claw movement. Oh, that's interesting. I messed that up. I didn't know that. This is the first time that I'm fully rewatching this entire run. But here I am, fully holding forwards on the analog stick, forwards on the C-stick, and then tapping the A button as well. Sometimes a Pikmin won't be thrown because this game is well programmed. It's dumb. But I'll show you when I would let go. Right just before the last part of that shadow, right here, is when I would press A 2 times. Not like as fast as you can, but tap, tap. That's all you need. Tap, tap. You'll throw 2 Pikmin at the bulb, then hold B and whistle, and the bulb should die. Supposing one of the bombs doesn't go off, one of the Pikmin doesn't drop their bombs. There's a couple backups you can do, but it seems like that section I didn't do it, so this isn't a great section to show you. You can also kill this bulb as well. If you don't throw and waste all of your bombs, you can actually grab the bomb, toss it to behind you, and then kill this little bulb as well. That's actually the backup as well for if you don't kill the big bulb. It'll actually hopefully kill literally 2 birds with 1 stone, because you'll be killing both of them with 1 bomb. So simply just grab your bomb and throw it backwards, and it can be a bit risky, but it works. So, cutscene skips. I have a very good video, in my opinion, that explains cutscene skips quite well. So I'm not going to beat the ass out of it here, but I will say that I kind of have a setup for the Eternal Fuel Dynamo where I stand right in front of the ship and I'm facing away and up left, right? And I can kind of tell what position it is when it's getting collected. And I know that this next frame is the frame that it will get collected. See? Now, when you're buffering cutscenes at a ship, or at the part, but at the ship is the more important one because the hitbox for when you actually bring up a text box is much smaller at the ship. You actually should be facing, now this is such a weird idea, but you should have Olimar's direction of facing clockwise around the ship. So you see I'm actually facing into the ship, right? Clockwise. If he was facing the other way, I would call that anti-clockwise. He's facing clockwise because when he presses A, he actually hits his head, right? And he moves away from the ship, and then you actually move away and you can't buffer any more text boxes. But if you face in this direction, no matter which position around the ship you are, as long as you face in that orientation, the away position, the clockwise position as I call it, you won't, you'll be easily able to buffer cutscenes, buffer text boxes against the ship. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. That's why I'm facing that direction and not any other direction. And you'll see me do that anytime I do a cutscene on the ship. It's because I'll be facing clockwise around it. Right, if you don't kill the bulb, simply swarm it and it's fine. Now, I would also recommend for mid to high level runners that you grow extras. If you don't have a lot of extras already, simply throw 3 Pikmin to the side and grab that little bulb. You'll pluck them at the end of the day. They won't help you out. Also, if you have too many deaths, you can also use that bulb to grow. I would just recommend you always grow using that bulb. I don't because it loses time. Right, this section. Okay, first thing first, I want to swarm this bulb. And I want to make sure I have a red able to be grabbed. I've got a red next to me, so easily I just simply throw the red. So first thing I do, swarm the bulb, walk into the C. This is like a C-shaped semicircle section. I'm fully holding out as far out as I can go, while I'm out into the as deep into the C section as I can go, aiming out as far as I can. I then press the A button. That's when I release I don't hold a Pikmin. Now, this is actually very important. I don't hold the Pikmin. I haven't got the Pikmin in my hands right now. I simply tap the A button. I'll let you see it again. I tap the A button because if I hold the Pikmin, it actually wakes up the bulb, and that's not what you want. I'll show you again one more time. I tap the A button. Don't hold A. So, I then whistle off of the little front bulb, and there will be 1 Pikmin, or many in this case, and they won't wake up the big bulb if you swarm into it because of how far away they are and how recently they've just gotten let go of something else, and how recently that you've thrown the Pikmin. Because you've recently thrown the Pikmin, like I was talking about with the gate earlier, because you've recently thrown a Pikmin, the Pikmin are less likely to be able to grab onto things. In fact, in this case, they're like anti-grabbing onto things, including attacking this big bulb. They'll wake it up and they'll simply swarm and C-stick to the right. I zoom in here so that any Pikmin stragglers don't affect the big bulb, and now he's attracted to the one on the C section, and there he is, attracted to the C section Pikmin. I should probably talk about this as well. So here, what I do, I simply throw a red Pikmin onto the Nova Blaster, and I'm going to C-stick away. In fact, I'm going to do some frame advance because that's probably easier. So I'm going to throw 1 red onto the Nova Blaster so that the Pikmin orient themselves. I've got reds as close to me and yellows far away from me. I then dismiss right C-sticking into the can so that the yellows will dismiss into the can. They'll all grab up the bombs, and then I'll whistle all these guys and simply C-stick them onto the Nova Blaster. Don't dismiss, because of course you'd leave your bombs in the can. It's quite easy to leave bombs in the can, so always check until you're familiar with it. Now, the setup for the water gate, there's a fair bit to think about here, but I actually messed up, so I suppose that's something good I can talk about. But the setup I use is actually, you see that little dandelion? If I'm in the behind camera on the second zoom out stage of the second zoom out, see the dandelion? I like to line up using that as a reference point, and then I can simply do a long throw, wait for it to there you go. Wait for it to get onto the wall, and then whistle it, then do another long throw. Yeah. I can actually skip drowning the second one simply by whistling at the right time. So I start whistling, I suppose, yeah, right as it reaches the cusp of the square part of the post. At that instant, that's when I start whistling, and then it should reach it. Just make sure you don't drown your other Pikmin. The bomb goes onto the gate, and you're good. You skip the drowning stage. Okay, the backup for if one Pikmin is thrown too short, simply, you see him, I say simply too much, it's not that simple, honestly, but you see him standing on the ledge. He can't actually get to his position, so he's just stuck, right? Well, there's a mechanic with bombs where if a bomb is activated suddenly, the Pikmin will get scared, right? So it'll return back to you. It'll get scared and try to run back to you. And so I'm now standing in this position, C-sticking away and right and down, so that when he gets scared, he'll return to me, and instead of landing in the water, he looks like he's going to drown, but he actually, instead of landing in the water, he comes back to me. This is a backup that I actually had to use a fair few times in my speedrunning career, I suppose. But yeah, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. Just as long as you have your setup and don't be too urgent. You cannot be too slow in that section. Take your time with it, because resetting because you've wasted a bomb is horrible. Right, so here I slow down the Nova Blaster so that I can do the setup for the area cutscene. Now, that was really good. I whistled off like 8 Pikmin, and that's pretty much what I want to go for. But for you, you should only really whistle a few frames until you're really comfortable with it. There's a certain size that I like to whistle to. Just make sure you only whistle a couple of frames, whistle a few Pikmin off, just slow it down a little. You don't want it to stop, because if it stops, that could cause all sorts of problems. Right, so simply throw 4 up here. Any extras, I might C-stick actually to get only bombs with me. I might C-stick onto the Bulborb, so that all of the Pikmin are grabbing onto the Bulborb. But because I had more than 10 non-bombs, they would have actually picked it up, and that's bad. But if you have less than 10 bombs, C-stick onto the Bulborb rather than dismissing like this, because it's actually a lot faster. I'm also C-sticking fully to the left, so when I press X, the only Pikmin that go forwards are the bomb Pikmin. That's really important. So, now this is also massively important. There's so much in Forest of Hope that you don't really notice unless I'm pointing it out right now. See where I'm aiming? So I come up in my Mario Kart line, and then I'm aiming right at the bottom right-hand corner. Right at the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to stress that again. Right at the bottom right-hand corner of where the gate is. Not to the left, not more forwards, not in the gate. Maybe you could find a position that's better. Good luck. This is the position that works. You throw all 9. At the top level, anyway, you throw all 9. You can 1-cycle the gate, or 2-cycle the gate if you want to be more consistent. You've got extra yellows, so hey, why not, right? Don't immediately start whistling. If you immediately press A after pressing... Sorry, if you immediately start holding B as soon as your thumb comes off the A button, you're probably going to have a few Pikmin not drop their bombs. They might die. Delay holding B until they start landing and moving to the gate. That's when you'll hold your B, and then it'll work like clockwork. See this? Whoops. See, look, I'm done throwing now. Do I press and hold B? I wait. How long is that? 200ths of a... Sorry, maybe about 0.2 of a second. 1/5 of a second. But that's really important. This game is really chaotic, and a small time makes a lot of difference. This is basically... I was hoping that this would be as close to an all-parts tutorial as I could be bothered to make. I'm just basically commentating and analyzing and explaining everything I think about during this run. Right, so why do I stop the Nova Blaster? It's because it lets me get the area cutscene on the 4th and 5th parts later on. I stop the Nova Blaster here because I feel like moving it any closer makes it less likely to be able to get the area cutscene, and moving it any further away, keeping it any further away, means that you lose more time later on. So the closer you get it to the ship, actually, the less time that you lose later on, but the less likely it is that you lose the area cutscene. So it's a bit of give and take. Just drop it where you think it's safe. Make sure you have 50 Pikmin exactly, maybe 51 if you're having deaths at this section. because you will be growing extra yellows and reds, so you might as well have extras with you. Just make sure you put the minimum on both the radar and the extraordinary bolt. So these guys have a moment of invincibility as they come up out of the ground. They can only die as soon as they're fully emerged, right? So you want to aim right in front of them, actually, not at the very spot you see them come out of the ground. You're not aiming at the very spot they come up out of the ground. You're aiming slightly in front of where their little pincers are. So you see, in fact, right here, I'm aiming too far down. So here's my position. I'm aiming too far down. So I actually adjust and adjust again. Now see, I'm aiming in front of its beak, in front of its pincers, because that's where the Pikmin that's going to kill it will kill it. See? None of the other Pikmin I threw killed it. The one I threw in front of its pincers, that's the one that killed that enemy. And now this one, it's a little bit close to those bulbs, so I actually miss it, but I guess I got kind of lucky with just kind of spamming. You can kind of spam as well, but the only way that you can save a Pikmin in the jaws of those enemies is to throw a Pikmin on top. You don't want to just kill it by swarm and attack damage. You want to kill it with a single hit, one hit KO. 20 on the radar, and then as soon as you can, as fast as you can, 30 on the extraordinary bolt. Now, this walk, ACB, there's a lot to explain about ACB. I'm not going to go as in-depth as I might do over text. If you have any issues, just I've explained it in the past by just typing. That's probably much easier. But there's a point that you load ACB, and I use the point as when I get out of the water, that's when I press Z, and then I check the position of ACB. Now, because I've played this game a lot, I know he's in the perfect position. This is the perfect RNG that you want. He's already in the right-hand side section of his ring. So I'm going to bump into my bombs. Don't whistle them, obviously. It's really important. Bomb the gate. Again, I delay my whistle until they start landing. I don't whistle until just before they start landing. Because if you don't, they might get scared. Right, I keep the camera zoomed in because ACB is in the good position. But if he's not in a good position, you keep him loaded until he walks into a good position, and then you zoom the camera in. If he walks to the right-hand side of his ring, that's what you want. You want him to be in the right-hand side, or the right-hand walk section of his ring. You now get him to shoot. Pardon me. You get him to shoot when he's in the 5 o'clock position, and then zoom in. Now, I had a trip here, which can cause a lot of issues, and I actually thought I might have lost the run because of it. If you get a trip at that section, honestly, just good luck. But get him to shoot in the 5 o'clock position, keep zoomed in, and just walk out. If he's in the right-hand side of his ring, you should be fine. Now, it's really important that you make it back to the Nova Blaster in time before these get to the ship, so that you can get what's called the area cutscene for Forest of Hope, which is if you get the cutscene skip on the radar, then you'll also skip the area cutscene, which is a 12-second long cutscene that would have played now. But you skip it. It's awesome. It's great. Hey, 12 seconds saved. You're a legend. Okay. This is probably going to be turning into a much longer video than I'd anticipated. But I suppose this is a useful tool. Now, I took 9 with me so that I can have 21 on the Sagittarius. I suppose it's up to you, really. But the reason I speed up the Sagittarius a little bit is actually to slow down the shock absorber a little bit, so that instead of them coming in together, they're actually separated so that I can get the cutscene skips easier. I still failed it, actually, because the Nova Blaster was so far away. There's a couple things that play into it, but I suppose... play around with it yourself. Just put the bare minimums on until you start getting lots of cutscene skips. That's my recommendation. But I put 21 on to separate them, and because I could speed up the bridge with 21 Pikmin. Now, this section is a bit of a newbie killer, because newbies have bad urgency. Urgency is the thing I was talking about on the bridge, right? So see how far away I am from my Pikmin. This is urgency, right? I'm really far away from my Pikmin, so that when I bump into the Bulborb, no Pikmin start attacking the Bulborb. Quite simple. But let's show you again. I whistle the back ones first, and then I whistle the front ones. And see how far, bloody, away from those Pikmin I am. I'm nowhere near them. They're not going to attack the Bulborb. I boop the snoot. I bump into the nose, right? He wakes up, and then I beeline to that part as fast as possible. I beeline to it. And I'm going to load it fully. Don't dismiss yet. Load it until you look at the counter, right? Look at your Pikmin counter. Look at that until it says like below 10, but preferably below 5. That's when you can press X. Because if you don't, they might separate and slowly grab on, and you don't want them to slowly grab on because it could cause the Bulborb to bite. It's, yeah, just trust me, okay, when I tell you. I'm giving you reasons too, but you should just trust me. Load it up as far as you can. Then you'll have the Bulborb walk over. As long as you're closer to the Bulborb than the part at all times. See how close I am to the Bulborb. I never let the ship part get closer to the Bulborb than I am. Standing there is a good position, I guess, but it does vary. This is why this is a Newbie Killer Part 2. Not because of urgency, but because you'll let the shock absorber get too close and it'll turn around. Now, doing 1 lure is also not recommended. This is only something I've started doing recently. 1 lure is fine. 2 lures is always 100% safe. Right, so final cutscene skips of the level. We're going to speed up the Nova Blaster a little bit. For some reason, it didn't get picked up, but that's because the Pikmin are stupid. It gets picked up, and then we'll get the cutscene skip on the Sagittarius. You see the Sagittarius is separate from the shock absorber, and then I actually stop the Nova Blaster because it's better to get a cutscene skip on a ship part versus the ship, because it's actually a 2-frame window rather than a 1-frame window, which not only saves time but increases consistency, right? And then you can get the cutscene skip if you're frame perfect on the ring in front of the ship, but I failed that. Ideally, I would make it back to the ship, but I failed because I accidentally walked behind the shock absorber. I was looking at the Nova Blaster so that I could get the cutscene skip, and then I didn't realize that I was behind the shock absorber when I didn't want to be. I could have stopped it in its tracks, but actually the last ship part that you get only saves 4 seconds if you get it frame perfectly rather than the original 7, so don't worry about it too much. There you go. That is pretty much a knowledge dump of Forest of Hope. Move on, shall we? Of course, anything you don't understand, you can join the Pikmin Speedrun Discord and let us know. Anything at all you don't understand. Anyone, including myself, top-level runners, even old runners, they're happy to help. Happy to help you out. So now, here's something that's not intuitive at all. See, I'm withdrawing from these onions. Imagine the speed that Pikmin get withdrawn from the onions as accelerating, right? It starts out slow, and then it gets really fast. See? That's because I'm holding down, and it kind of speeds up. But as long as I hold down for the entirety that I'm inside the onion menu, I don't have to get it to accelerate during the yellow onion, because I held down for the entire time that I was in the onion menu. I don't have to hold down during this section. As long as it's in the onion menu, I've got maximum speed already. We're through. I got the Pikmin out of the yellow onion as fast as possible. Now you can use that to your advantage throughout the whole run. So here you have to make sure that no Pikmin get left behind. Definitely just practice that. It's likely that if you're too urgent, you'll just leave some Pikmin up there. Now, keep a few with you so that you can start killing these guys while the other Pikmin are killing the big guy, the blowhog. Then you want the bread bug to appear now so that it'll pick up a pellet, and then you can just simply collect the bread bug, and there's no issue. I actually made a small mistake here, but that's fine. Okay. Now you can start long throwing to this bridge and throw as fast as possible. I like to C-stick forwards more than down, but just C-stick in a way that works for you. That's what I would recommend. Now this bit, it can be a bit finicky. Maybe we make it look easy, but whistle all of the Pikmin that you can and run away, and then you press X while C-sticking to the right. And this makes them separate pretty well and then immediately work on the bridge again. No issues, really. I like to throw in the pipe if I can. Don't throw bombs, obviously, because you'll have a bit of a disaster. But throw a couple of Pikmin so that they'll pick up some bombs. See this? As I get into the top, throw. Right there, see? it makes it speed up a little bit. That time it probably didn't help very much. But look, I mean, that was a really fast collection, right? So, hey, you know. Yeah, simply just bump into them. Bump into the ones at the back first, because while you do that, you'll probably get some of the ones from the front as well. It ties into the old Pikmin motto, start the thing that's going to finish last first. I made a bit of a mistake there as well, because I thought the bridge was done when it wasn't. So you're going to want to throw exactly 25 on it, swarm a few on there to speed it up, and then throw the rest down to whatever your total of reds is, which for me at that moment it was 66. For you it might be up to 69, 70. Minus 25 from that, you should be able to, you'll get used to it. And my total at that point was 51. Then I whistled my yellows and I'm in. Now you need to lure this Wollywog down and to the right so that he doesn't attack either on the up or right paths. Obviously you need to have him as far away from both as possible, which is in the down right section. Now this section has actually killed runs quite a few times for me. I usually know that I've beaten the bridge. Shut up. Okay. Notice how I'm fully C-sticking forwards, and I actually wait here for a second. I wait for a second and stand still so that the reds can separate before I press X. That lets the yellows go left and forwards rather than going behind. It's just another way to play more urgent. Okay, so this section. I like to aim here. It's actually kind of loose where you need to aim. Just anywhere in the front right circle. Whatever works for you, really. But make sure you throw 6, and only 6. Do not throw 7, because you'll have a death, or you'll waste a bomb, which is as bad as killing the run, because you can't get the area cutscene. I'll explain in a minute. Throwing 5 is okay, because you can then use a backup Pikmin. But basically, wait until they land and start moving towards the gate. Then you'd whistle. Because wasting bombs, killing a Pikmin there is too easy. I've genuinely lost runs to that gate a lot. And more times than I'm happy to admit, quite frankly. Even though I just admitted it. Okay. I like to throw 3 underneath. And get this guy to walk most of the distance that it gets carried. That the ship part would get carried. So that, obviously, the distance that the part has to move is slightly less. Throw 3 underneath, and he'll tip over in about 2 seconds. Try and throw exactly 30 onto the body. It can be a bit tough to get the perfect distance, but you'll get it in practice. Now, I actually messed up. I threw 29 because I thought I did bad maths, basically. But simply just toss one on and you're fine. It's better to have the buds and leaves, if you have any. Better to have them with you now rather than on the Omega Stabilizer, because it speeds up the Omega Stabilizer. That's the first reason. And the second reason is BLL. He produces buds and leaves anyway, right? So it's better to have them all grouped together and all of them on the guard satellite so that you can flower them or put them away later. BLL, there's a lot to explain about BD Longlegs. He can come down in 2 states. At the moment, and as long as you've killed the bread bug, he'll drop down. Well, it's okay. If there is a sprout in the ground, he'll drop down slowly. And if there's no sprouts in the ground, you haven't killed the bread bug, he'll drop down fast. At that point, if he drops down fast, you'll need to be C-sticking forwards, clawing, and tap A now. And then they'll start attacking him, and then you can lower his body and continue to attack and throw all of your Pikmin on. If not, though, he drops, and he drops low enough so that you can throw your reds on. Now, work on the timing yourself. There's vaguely an audio cue, but there are different tracks. The music doesn't always start at the right time. But so just kind of, it's about 4 to 5 seconds. You'll kind of figure out your own timing for the slow drop. Okay, so let's actually talk about the fight itself. Obviously, you want to avoid Pikmin being attracted to the foot cups. That happens way too often. I'm going to go through it frame by frame. So he's going to shake off around half health. That's actually a pretty good amount of damage. That's a lot of damage. So if you've thrown all the Pikmin into one spot rather than all over his body, they'll fly off together. So I only need a short whistle burst, and I whistle most of my Pikmin that fell off back up. I throw them on again, if I'm able to, in the same spot. You see? All the Pikmin are going right back on where they got thrown off from. Now I'll pick up the stragglers, which I think is about 5. And then I'll continue throwing them on. See, none of them are attacking the foot cups. What's most important is that you kind of get to know the pattern of the foot cups. Practice BLL. Practice BD long legs over and over. Don't do anything else in Forest Naval. Just practice BD long legs for a while. Get to grips with the pattern. You'll be killing way too many runs. But if you've got extra reds, it makes it faster and therefore less likely to kill a single Pikmin. So grow extra reds, right? That's my big advice for Forest of Hope. Okay. Fighting in with 20 is even scary for any runner. I executed that pretty well. Then simply dismiss underneath him and then run off. Easy as that. I don't wait. There's nothing really massive to worry about with BLL. You just have to practice it. Now, this section actually can cause people a bit of a problem, which I never had a big problem with it. But if there's an enemy blockade, like imagine these two enemies in front of me now were actually shifted over to the right slightly, they would blockade me. Run through them and already be whistling so that when you move your cursor down, you'll be whistling the Pikmin and then run away as fast as possible. Just don't involve with them. Don't get involved with them. Don't touch them. Don't worry about them. Just make sure you've got all of your Pikmin with you. Always be looking at your cursor, your counter. You know you've got 15 yellows with you. So I like to stop the gravity jumper as soon as I can and then dismiss, throw 6 on the gate, and as easy as that, it's through. I'm not gonna go back. There's nothing extra special to talk about. Here, you have to make sure that you're at 93 or less, because you need space for 7 blues. So unfortunately, that may involve killing a lot of red Pikmin. Grab a red if you're able to. I actually grabbed a yellow by mistake, but grab a red if you're able to. Toss it into the water, and get down to 93. Do some maths in your head. Now, I fully C-stick forwards, and I want to avoid this blowhog, but I want to get the reds as close without getting interrupted by the blowhog, as close to the blowhog as possible, without dealing with it, right? So I move forwards, I press X while C-sticking forwards, and they'll separate. Then I bump into the bombs, not whistle them, bump into them, because they'll return to me as soon as possible. It's just more consistent, and I'll do 3 long throws onto this black gate. The blowhog isn't even involved, but sometimes it can be. It's a bit of an issue. Anyway, toss up onto the wall. You can toss wherever you want, but make sure that you get the yellows close to you so that the reds will be far away from you. Then when you dismiss, they'll grab onto the gate and your yellows will return to you. Lovely. Isn't that amazing? Like clockwork. It always works. Now, the best that you could do for this blowhog is around 9 carriers. I got 7, I think. 9 carriers is best, but don't... If you get 7, just continue. It's faster. If you get like 14, whistle some off. You need to move the these guys, these shearwigs, closer to the blue onion. Now I'll throw some Pikmin on these guys and destroy all these posies if I'm able to. And I destroyed them all, which is awesome. Sometimes you might have 1 left, at which point it's best to kill the posy before you start growing using the blowhog. Just kill it before that. Right, okay. I see, because I had 7, I have to speed up the blowhogs very slightly and let it get collected slightly closer before I then whistle off. Now, here's something interesting that people see, but I've never actually even spoke about this. I don't even know if I have. I run to the opposite side of the Pikmin, right? I don't just pick it and pluck it as soon as I can, because when I pluck the Pikmin, it goes behind me. Therefore, it goes closer to the point I'm trying to get it to. So then after this cutscene, all I have to do is press A, and I'm already on the posy. See? I just press A, and I'm on the posy. Dismiss. And then destroy this posy by hand. Easy as that. You can dismiss or C-stick onto the pellet. It's up to you. Get the first pellet, because the limiting factor in this section is actually all of the pellet Pikmin. This pellet is the limiting factor because that's the 7th blue, right? So get the one that's closest to the blue onion. Now you'll want to throw all but 1. All but 2 is fine. All but 3 is okay, you know. As long as you don't throw all of your yellows up there, because if you did, as you walked past, all of the yellows would have grabbed onto the automatic gear. It would fall down and flop all over the place. Keep 1 or 2 with you so that you can put them up there as well later on. And it also works out better with the area cutscene skip anyway. So, this is when you would kill any extra posies, if there were any. And there you go. It's as easy as this, right? You just whistle your Pikmin off, load them on the stick, and then as the blues get close to the blowhog, dismiss. The blowhog can be in all sorts of funny situations. It can be a bit awkward. I'd say experience is really what pays off in this section. The reason it went so easily for me is because I'm experienced and I know the setups that lead to the easiest setups, right? I have setups to get a setup to get the actual thing rolling. I leave the blowhog separately from the shearwigs. The shearwigs are separately in front of the stalagmites, right? And the blowhog is separate so that I can simply press X, they grab on. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that beautiful? So, Mario Kart. This is just Mario Kart with extra steps. So, when you get the blowhog, you want to stand just down from the fire geyser to the other side of the fire geyser towards the blue onion, so that when the blowhog gets collected, the 7 Pikmin rejoin you, and do not dismiss at this point, because you would lose the 7 Pikmin. You have 007 blues to use. It's okay to leave one of the shearwigs behind there because you'll simply use 2 blues on it. Whichever shearwig is likely to be the last one to get collected, that's the one that gets 2. Everything else gets 1. Yeah, that's it really. Now, I like to collect the bread bug to get that out of the way. You do need to get it out of the way somehow. I like to pluck as well if I'm able to, but depending on your speed, it might be difficult to even beat the automatic gear or anything else. That setup worked so beautifully for me. I'm actually super proud of this. But I simply sped up the automatic gear, and it just worked out. There are several situations you might have in this section that can be a bit difficult to deal with. How best to explain it? I suppose the more consistent way would be not to use the the space float. You'll be using the automatic gear and the guard satellite together to get the area cutscene. Because, by the way, just to clarify, this is the 11th part and this is the 12th part. On the 12th part, you would get another area cutscene. You're skipping that by getting 2 of them at the same time. Another reason I like to use the the space float, space float, is because all of the Pikmin that I want are on the guard satellite. Literally the inverse of the number of reds that I need. I don't need to put any others out. I don't need to do any maths. Look, I simply put every single red Pikmin I have up while the rest of the Pikmin are coming off of there. So the number that you need to take with you, the number that you need is 45 reds, right? So I know I've got 24 working on the bridge, and there's 21 on the guard satellite, because that's the inverse. That's 45 minus the Pikmin working on the bridge, 21 on guard satellite. Now, I want to keep the bud and leaf Pikmin with me. Don't throw, if you can. You can if you have to, but if you don't have to, simply C-stick onto it and keep your buds and leaves with you. Destroying the posy on the left, that's probably going to stop the ADF from getting stuck. The anti-dioxin filter is so big and wide, it might bump into some of these and get stuck, which can cause massive time loss later on. So that's why I kill that there. Fast onion removal, because I've been holding down during the text boxes, or during the onion boxes. Now I throw these guys up here because it's slightly faster than running around. It's almost not faster, but it is very, very slightly faster. It's really nothing. But, you know, I'm a speedrunner, what am I going to do? Be slower on purpose. You can get that cutscene skip as well. It's up to you, really, if you want to stop it, depending on how far the gravity jumper got. It's always faster to stop the gravity jumper in the first time, but then to get the cutscene skip later on, it might be varied based on the position of the gravity jumper. Right, anyway. Flowering here, he can be in one of 2 positions, but if the gravity jumper is stopped really, really soon, i.e. before he gets up and around to this section at the top, before the gravity jumper gets up around here, if you stop the gravity jumper, say, in front of this gate, then you shouldn't actually have to go to the second position of the honey wisp, which is over here. It's better to deal with it over here anyway, because it's closer to you. So I've grabbed a yellow, because he can the yellow can hit the honey wisp at any height, and it can have a varied height. It's actually easier to flower all of the Pikmin that you have with you if you swarm in a circle. Now, you can't use the C-stick, obviously, because you're holding a Pikmin, but you can walk around, and if you do that, that forces the Pikmin to get closer together. They group up really, really easily, because I'm using the analog stick to move around in a circle. Then I kill the honey wisp, and there you go. I then start using the C-stick and flower all of the Pikmin. So I have, I don't think, any buds, which is awesome. Now, if you haven't killed the bread bug yet, this is the best time to kill the bread bug if you see it. If you see the bread bug coming along, that's when you'll kill it. But obviously, I've already killed the bread bug. So that's fine for me. Right. Okay, so this little section. Hey, yeah, I'm a god. Don't you know it? Okay, so this section. It should be quite easy to grab a blue because they're the most populous Pikmin that you have with you. But also, if you just constantly C-stick forwards, you should be able to grab onto a blue. There's definitely an art about grabbing the right color of Pikmin that you want, but like I say, it shouldn't be too difficult. Just grab onto a blue, hold onto it, and then start throwing a few of them on. Then C-stick forwards until they stop moving. Then you press X. You'll want to whistle your blues first, all of your blues, and then whistle the reds, otherwise they'll start building the bridge. Now, the yellows will have started working. The reds and blues will separate. You grab your whistles, you whistle your blues and your reds, and then you start to throw until you have 51. Okay, that's quite important, because that means that the inverse of 51, i.e. 100 minus 51, 49 Pikmin are working on the bridge, and 49 is the start of another bridge range. So 49 is the maximum speed that you can get that bridge to get moving without losing a fair bit of time in this section. That's not really massively important if you're not beating the bridge anyway, but if you start beating the bridge, get up to 49. Otherwise, just move on. Don't bother throwing blues onto the bridge at all. So this is a whistle switch. Oh, also notice how I pulse load. I'm going to talk about this first. I pulse load onto the analog computer by first C-sticking fully, then pressing X. That might not make a huge difference, but it makes it more likely, very slightly, that all of the Pikmin grab onto it. Rather than just dismissing in front of it, some of them will potentially let go, and you have to lose time to go and save them. So by pulse loading, by first C-sticking on, then pressing X, instead of just pressing X in front of it, it all works. Dismiss. X is dismiss. Right, here, I'm doing a whistle switch, which is my favorite mechanic in the game. Hey, Scrap. Hell yeah, man. Okay, so, hold B, and as soon as the whistle stops, that's when you can press X, and the Pikmin that you whistled will join you, and the Pikmin that you had with you will be dismissed. It's like inverting the Pikmin that are idle and with you. So simply, hold B, press X, and there you go. How awesome is that Pikmin management? It's a thing of beauty. You'll see it again with the Libra, so I won't stress it too much. Now, I beat the bridge. Like I said, you can beat the bridge if even with 49 Pikmin working on the bridge, but just keep it up. Now, this is another Pikmin dismissing mechanic. Basically, I grab a blue, and I make sure I grab a blue. I C-stick fully backwards, then I walk into the water. When I press X, the blues will run forwards, the reds will run backwards, and the yellows will run exactly where I want them. I throw the yellows up, and then easy as that. They've been separated and split up. The blues work on the geyser so you can get up there, and the reds go backwards. You throw up. Now make sure you zoom the camera in, because there's a chance that the Libra will bounce around and the Pikmin will get thrown off it. And then you'll do another whistle switch with 16. Now it's up to you what number you use here. Some people like to use 18. Some people like to use 15 as the bare minimum. I use 16 because that lets it slightly catch up to the analog computer. It'll be moving very, very slightly faster than it, and by the time they both get round, the distance will be closed, and I'll be able to get the cutscene skip in an effective way that I find. But if you put 18 on it, they'll be bumping into each other, and if you put 15 on it, they'll be really separated. So it's up to you, but that's why I put 16 specifically. Now, make sure you grab a blue again. Grabbing a blue, the ability to grab the most populous Pikmin is very important. Grab a blue to separate them, to segregate these Pikmin. C-stick fully away up this panel, up this this portion of land, and then, like clockwork, again for the third time, the blues will come up, the reds will run away, and the yellows will stay where they are. Simply grab all your Pikmin. Jesus Christ. Hey. So this section, you can actually do this a little bit faster than what I did. But based on the RNG of where the Wollywogs are facing, you have to kind of deal with it. But make sure they both jump basically towards the bottle. Zoom the camera in so that they don't get involved. Slightly pulse load the ADF, and then lure them one more time. That's really important because they could attack the ADF. Lure them away from the bottle, and I'm even doing it a third time. I didn't even know I did that. But just doing it to be extra safe, and then you need to lure this one as well. And that's it. There's nothing extra to the ADF. Some people really struggle with the ADF. They say, oh, I've had deaths at it. I can't get past it. Just literally, it's that easy, right? Have them both jump around the same time. Zoom the camera in slightly to then pulse load the ADF so that it picks up quickly. And then the Wollywogs aren't even interested in the Pikmin. They don't even know they're there. One more time, away, and that's how simple it is. Right. Now I'm going to toss 2 to the side for later. And in doing so, I'm also organizing my Pikmin. You see, I've got reds on one side and yellows on the other, barring those 2. Now I want to whistle off about half of the Pikmin off of the ADF. Now make sure it comes fully onto the land. A lot of people I see whistling the ADF just as it comes out of the water because that's too urgent, right? You don't want to do that because it might slip into the water and some of the Pikmin will start drowning. Make sure it comes fully onto the land. Waste a second. It doesn't matter if you waste a second because it's consistent, and that's more important in this game. It comes onto the land. That's when you whistle and do another whistle switch. The position of the Pikmin is important as well. Make sure the yellows are on one side of the line and the reds are on the other side of the line of travel of the ADF. Now I'm whistle switching. The yellows will grab onto it. In fact, they didn't all grab onto it, so I had to just readjust it. In fact, that wasn't even very fast. Sometimes you can get that section really perfectly, though. It's better, again, to minimum load the ADF. But in this case, actually, I put 2 extra Pikmin on it. Basically, go with what you're given. But if you can, put minimum on it. That's my best advice for the ADF. In fact, I'm going to have a look at it again, see what happened. For some reason, the yellows went up and left where they shouldn't have, and I also whistled off too few blues. So ideally, you whistle off more blues than you need, then you throw a few blues onto it. But I actually whistled off too few blues, and so I didn't need to throw any on extra. Yeah, I think I don't need to explain too much about it. Obviously, if a trip happens, just dismiss and whistle them back up to make him come with you. This is literally just a regurgitation of everything I know. Well, not really, but most of things that I know. Like the 80% of the things that I know about this game, I'm telling you now. First, get these bombs. Because you've got a yellow with you, it can be slightly awkward. As in, I've got a yellow, like the first Pikmin 1 in my group is a yellow. See, keep your eye on the one yellow that gets really close to Olimar, right? He is the one that is first, like the first Pikmin in my group. And because of that, he doesn't want to go anywhere except right next to Olimar, and it's awkward to make him pick up a bomb. To counteract that, you could throw a blue and then whistle it back. And then they would be ID 21 and 22, and therefore be the ones that go further away from Olimar, and therefore go into the can much easier. I didn't do that, though. You can long throw these Pikmin, or you can just single throw them and put them up there. I actually like the long throw, but that's only a recent thing that I thought of, and I forgot it up to this point. But if you long momentum throw them, you can get them out of the water slightly faster. It doesn't really speed up anything, so there's no real point to do it. But hey, I guess if it saves a little bit of walking, why not, right? Make sure you bump into them, of course, unless you're on Wii, in which case you can whistle them easy peasy. But then you wouldn't be doing this route anyway. Two throws staggered at this rate lets you lets you not even whistle. You don't even have to whistle. If you throw them really fast or one slower than the other, you might have to whistle to make sure that they don't die or both bomb. But if you throw them at about this rate when you get to the stones, easy as that. Sometimes you'll speed up the Ionium Jet depending on the rate at which the analog computer is getting collected. And at this point, it's right before the ring in front of the ship, so I'm able to get the cutscene skip fairly easily. I think I get it on the 3rd try. Yes, I do. And the reason I put 16 on was now because I didn't need to speed it up, and it only took a couple of seconds after the analog computer to get collected. If you put 17 on, it would be just after the analog computer, and if you put 15 on, it would be stuck behind the ADF. So it's up to you, really. Sorry, tomato anus. Whatever makes it easier for you to get cutscene skips. Now I stop the ADF again so that I can get the cutscene skip using the Ionium Jet text box. And just like that, I get all of these cutscene skips. Now, remember my position. I'm facing clockwise around the ship and not getting pushed out. Easy as that. Please don't let me have killed a blue. This is really good pace. Okay, there's a lot to take in, but I'm hoping that this is a rough tool until I end up making a Pikmin tutorial, which I actually probably won't do. So I hope this suffices. This is just potentially a bonus for people who have already been learning Pikmin and want to advance to getting a 6-day. This is an addition, not the full tutorial, I suppose. It's just a commentary of my world record. Okay, so I'm actually holding down during this text box, so that after I hold down out of this text box, it'll be moving at full speed. But I think I messed up. Yeah, I did. Anyway, after I press A, I continue to hold down so that when I press A on the red onion, I'll be withdrawing Pikmin from that as well. Try to avoid the beetle if you can. It's just random. Just get lucky is my best advice. The more yellows you have, the more likely it is that you'll pick up those bombs quickly. And I had 9 with me, so it was quite quick. I only need 5, I don't need 6. 6 is nice as a backup if you get a bad throw. But yeah, okay, so there's an art in grabbing the correct Pikmin, like I've said before. Make sure you grab a bomb Pikmin and throw 3. If you can't, if you struggle with grabbing the right color or the right type, simply dismiss and then grab the 5. Something I do here, which maybe I recommend, but I get the yellow to speed up the pearl so that I can then speed up the impact site, the positron generator with 35 Pikmin instead of 34, because I get the yellow onto the pearl. That's quite difficult to do, though. I'd recommend you practice it quite a lot, and then decide if it's for you or not. Anyway, the best way that you can kill this enemy is by aiming at the right-hand side, top right of the pearl area, and have the blue Pikmin bounce slightly off of the little force field section, the little like blue pulsating see-through section. Have them just barely bounce off it, and then they'll attack instantly. And I one-cycled it with seconds, minutes, hours. I could have gone to sleep, in the amount of time that I had spare. Now, one blue let go, unfortunately, so I had to go back and save it. And then I guess I decided not to speed it up. But, it's whatever. As long as you just work out what's best for you. Depending on, how fast you are able to do things. That changes how fast you should be moving parts. Now, the reason I went back to this is because I'm holding down. As soon as I press A, I'm holding down again. So that the text box, the onion thing, so that the onion menu moves as fast as possible, right? Now, you put your Pikmin away only after the third bounce of this of the onion, right? So it's getting sucked up. The pearl gets sucked up. Bounce 1, bounce 2, bounce 3. That's when I press the A button to put my Pikmin away. Because if you press it any sooner, then some sprouts might be formed, and if you press it later, well, you're losing time. So it's after the third bounce of the legs. Wait until you've got 50, and then withdraw all other 50. Easy as that. Now, you'll want to grab a non-blue but flower. You'll have some yellows with you, hopefully, and stand just before the grass, and when you've got all of the blues out of the onion, that's when you start swarming and get connected. Nothing to worry about there. Then you'll speed up the positron generator. And I think I get it in 3 tries. Yeah, okay, fine. The faster something is, the easier it is to get the cutscene skip. So that's why I speed it up, not only because it's faster. Okay. Distant Spring. Now, at this point, of course, I'm minus 37 and panicking a little bit. I guess runner's nerves kick in at this point. And I've actually had a moment to think, which means I'm thinking, holy God, this run is so good. And I'm nervous at this point. I think this is the most nervous I was, not in Final Trial. I actually struggled to throw Pikmin up here. I struggled to count because my hand was literally shaking off of the A button. I couldn't do my normal setups of just throwing. My hand was literally like shaking off on the A button, so I could... it calmed down after that, but it was really tricky to just keep properly composed and just throw 20 Pikmin. And it can really can be quite difficult to keep your nerves steady, especially on a good pace run. And this is the thing that I was working towards for so long. Okay, so the simple setup for this is just run into the top left corner of this section, C-stick away because there's an invisible wall. Don't C-stick until all of your Pikmin are past this point where the land is. But after they are past that, that's when you C-stick up and left, and then round the corner. When they all get round the corner, that's when you press X, and they'll come into this corner when they unidle. When they idle themselves, then they'll grab onto the repair type bolt, and it'll be all good. Now just spam these guys. As long as you kill them with a direct hit, there's nothing to worry about. I'm not going to go too crazy about these guys. Except that I will say, try and kill them as far away from the bridge as possible, because they can cause a couple issues with loading the bridge. So see here, I had like 42 with me, 40 with me. If there were shear grubs next to the bridge, the Pikmin that I throw now would pick up the shear grubs instead of getting to work on the bridge. Right, so the reason I take 29 with me is because the lowest number that will work on the bridge range it's 41, right? Yeah, so I have 70 Pikmin with me, and I'm going to throw 41 blues onto the bridge, because 41 is the beginning of a bridge range that speeds up. It's basically the fastest that you can have that bridge move without losing time later on. Ideally aim for 29, but if you can get 28, 27, if you have to, 28 and 27 are fine. 26 is not fine because of the other two bridges in the level, but I know I didn't explain that very well. Hey, Jack. But basically, yeah, you want 41 because 41 moves faster than 40, but 42 doesn't move any faster than 41, and 43 doesn't move any faster than 41 either. You might as well have the bare minimum, right? 29 is optimal, but if you have to have 28 or 27, just accept it and move on. So this guy, actually, I have a couple things to say about this guy. I don't zoom the camera out to check on his position until after I reach this little island. This is my little pointer, right? This island. When I get to this island and it's fully off screen, that's when I zoom the camera out and I check his position. I see him floating to the left, right? And that's the position you want him to be, so I zoom the camera in again. But if he was floating around to the right, I would zoom the camera in. I would actually zoom the camera in again in that situation as well. I suppose if he's already facing the position that you want, keep the camera zoomed out. But if he's floating around and is being messy and going the wrong direction, zoom the camera in so that you can get under him and prevent that as soon as possible. Yeah, just wait here for a while, and as soon as you see him do that little bob twice, that's when you know he's going to blow, so then you walk towards him and start throwing. It's as easy as that. Only 20 on this part, so I throw the inverse of that away, and I put exactly 20 on it. You want to kill the blowhog. You see this little grass patch, this little weed patch. Kill the blowhog south of that, or, well, below that in terms of where my camera angle is now. Kill it below that, or in line with it, and also avoid the water dumpers as well, so that the interstellar radio will walk this way and down versus up and through the section where they will die. Now, the only Wollywog you need to move, avoid waking up the Smoky Prog, by the way, the only Wollywog you need to move is this one. Get him on the island if you can, and then zoom the camera in. It's that easy. Let me show you again. I hold forwards, and I hold forwards, and it worked. What a miracle. That's literally all you have to do. You just hold forwards. It's that easy. But if he doesn't jump, of course, you have to go back and make sure he goes on the island. Okay, let's talk about snitch bugs. Everyone's favorite thing. At this moment, right where I am now, I'm moving the camera up so that I can see past this stone gate. If the snitch bug is there, I would see it. If its shadow was there, I would see it. If the snitch bug was anywhere near here, I would have seen it. So at this point, I'm searching for the snitch bug. That's why I'm in the fully zoomed out mode. And I didn't see it. So I think maybe it's behind the stone gate. So I then turn the camera and I check behind the stone gate and it's not there either. If it is there, if you see the snitch bug, you kill it. You fight the snitch bug if you see it. If it's not, you just have to get lucky and hope that it doesn't come past here later on. In this run, I did get lucky. So load up that gate first, that bridge first with 8. Lure the Wollywog once. Not all the way. It doesn't have to be because you'll lure it again. Kill these guys, easy peasy. Try to kill them away from the bridge if you can, but just load up the bridge. Honestly, there's nothing special to talk about, but make sure that the Wollywog is... Okay, basically, that's where I would call the minimum movement. So he's going to drop and land where his shadow is now. Any further down towards the bridge, and I would be a bit worried. Okay? I'm pretty comfortable with his position where he went now, but basically, any further down, and I would be worried that he might start attacking the bridge Pikmin when they're complete. So just make sure that you don't enable him to kill them. Lure him far enough away sufficiently. Now, I'm holding down during these onion moving onion things. So during the onion text box, I'm able to withdraw 10 Pikmin as easy as that, because I'm holding down during these onion text boxes. Because I didn't kill the snitch bug, I actually beat the bridge by a significant margin. But if you kill the snitch bug, you could, if you do everything else as fast as possible, you could beat that bridge and kill the snitch bug as well, thereby losing no time at all to the snitch bug, which is awesome, which is great, right? Now I'll throw a yellow. There's an art to grabbing the right color of Pikmin that you want. It's the behind Pikmin of me. I'm also growing extra blues there. That'll help me out in Final Trial. But because I've thrown a blue, the Pikmin that are behind me will be yellows, so I'll grab a yellow, toss it on, and dismiss while C-sticking forwards. The blues will grab onto the massage machine, and I won't trigger the text box, and it'll be great. Now, I actually slowly throw my Pikmin. You might not maybe be able to tell. Okay, yeah, with the second skull, you can see I actually throw my Pikmin slower than I'm able to. And that's because it pulse loads the bombs in the skull. First, they pick up one bomb, then they pick up the next bomb. If I threw them as fast as possible, all four Pikmin in fact, would go towards one bomb, go idle, and it would be slow and horrible, right? But because I pulse loaded them, the first one that lands goes to the first bomb, the second one that lands goes to the second bomb, and then 3 and 4 go for the ones that are buried underground. Luring this Wollywog, it can actually end up killing your Pikmin, but just luring it to the side like that is always safe. Luring it forwards and back is a bit sketchy. So do that. Now for this for this one cycle, I quite like aiming in the top left corner. Basically, when you destroy a gate, aim to the corner if you can, rather than in the middle, because it lets them walk. But actually, I messed up there. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I messed up. I don't know what necessarily caused it, other than I started whistling too soon. As long as they don't die, it's fine. You can just try again. I think that position was better. Yeah, the position now is better than the position I had at the start. So don't aim here. Do aim here. No. No. Yes. Okay. There you go. Figure it out though for yourself. I mean, I messed up pretty heavily there. Maybe I'm not the best to talk about that gate. Gates have their own little personalities. Some of them like to mess you up more than others. I speed this up just for, just because I'm speeding up, but I actually leave it there because I can have two things happening at once later on. If I was to collect it, it would be more consistent, but slower, right? I actually leave it there so that I can have the bowsprit being collected at the same time as I'm collecting the massage machine. Two things are moving rather than one thing, and then later on I would have the other thing moving as well, right? So I'm just saving time by that. So this section, simply C-stick, and you're in, right? I am looking for the snitch bugs. This is the only thing I'm thinking about in my mind. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm thinking snitch bug. I need to kill these snitch bugs, especially because I've not killed any of them yet. Snitch bugs. I'm also grabbing a yellow, actually, just in case they're backwards like that one is. But I see this snitch bug. As soon as it's there, I see its shadow, right? And I think, okay, there's the snitch bug. It's backwards, and I can easily kill it with a yellow. And then the other one flies in as well. Now, while I'm fighting these guys, you'll notice that the Pikmin don't really grab on very well, and that's because the swarming, the swarming doesn't work very well in this game. If you've just thrown a Pikmin, they're less likely to grab onto something. There's basically like two states. If you throw a Pikmin, they'll be in the state where they don't like grabbing onto things, and that just so happens to be exactly the way that you can deal with a snitch bug. So they kind of struggle to grab onto a snitch bug at first, and because I had to constantly throw to kill both of these guys because they were constantly throwing my Pikmin off, that was a bit of time loss, and yeah, they just weren't grabbing on. If you only have to deal with one snitch bug, though, you don't really have to deal with them not grabbing on because they eventually start grabbing on, and you just continuously C-stick. But honestly, I handled that reasonably well, and only a few buds were generated, so that only cost me about 10 seconds because I lost time later on to the buds. So, I need to make sure that I have 25 blues with me minimum. I actually had 26 with me because clearly I can't count. So I just tossed it to the side. You'll know if you've got the right number with you because you have 10 extra yellows, so you'll have 25 blues, 10 yellows, that's 35. You don't actually need to get all bombs. In fact, I left one of the bombs there, so I only have 9 out of the 10 bombs that are in that skull. That's fine. Ideally, take all 10, though, with you, just because you might waste them, and it's not good. In fact, I wasted 1 bomb here. I threw 5 instead of 4 at that black gate. That black gate only requires 4 bombs, but I threw 5 by mistake because I overthrew. And that was actually kind of scary at this point, because if either of these bombs had missed, the run was dead. Look at my face. Oh, you can't see it. Only I can. Just look at my stupid face, though. I'm like, holy God, if this messes up, this is literally run death. And it can happen sometimes. That's why I like to have 3 bombs for this section, rather than 2. Luckily it worked out, though. They all worked, and they ran into the water. I'm killing those Pikmin, rather than saving them, because you see, this bridge is done now. If I'd saved those Pikmin, I would have actually lost time to it. Now, because the ACB is still alive, it was aiming to the right-hand side because of the bridge Pikmin, so simply run behind it, and you want it to run as it's being attacked, as it's being killed, right? You want it to run to the entry gate of its arena. Because basically, as close as a minimum, you need to minimize the distance that it needs to walk while being collected by Pikmin. If you can get it closer to the entrance gate, why not, right? This is something that we only recently did about 6 months ago. Yeah, definitely get it as close to the entrance gate as possible, because then it gets collected sooner, right? I mean, that's pretty logical. If you've got 29 on the bridge, I like to throw 1 blue and then keep the others there and dismiss. It helps with my organization, but do whatever's best for you. And of course, you might have 27 or 28 working on the bridge, so always have 8 on the short bridge and the rest on the other bridge. I like to lure this Wollywog slightly further away from there, because obviously it went to those yellow Pikmin where they were dying, so it's actually fairly consistent where its position is. It then, you then lure it downwards slightly, and then you zoom the camera in to avoid the other one and well, both of them technically. As you get over the geyser, if you've done the lure correctly, you shouldn't need to have to walk back to it. It'll just immediately launch. You won't have to lose any time to the second lure, because you've gone over the geyser, it jumps, and then you just walk away. That's if you get the perfect position. Sometimes you might not get the perfect position. If that happens, just lure it again. So grab your blue if you can. There's an art form to grabbing the right color of Pikmin that you want. Then wake up this Bulborb with the back of these yellows. The reason that the yellows don't wake up the Bulborb, don't start attacking the Bulborb, is because you're grabbing onto a blue, and they're thinking about being thrown, not about grabbing on and attacking to stuff. It bumps into the Bulbear, though, and it still wakes it up. Now, I actually lost a tiny bit of time here because of all the buds that are on the pilot seat. I still get the cutscene skip though, so I mean I'm happy with that. If it meant that I get the cutscene skip, nothing to worry about. I think I do it in 2 text boxes. I do. And then massage machine. I'm collecting this while the bowsprit is being collected. I'm not saying this is actually best, because if you lost time, or the blowhog, the bowsprit was collected at the same time as the pilot seat during the ACB interaction. Jesus. This is actually hard to explain. But if you kill the ACB instead of loading the bridge first, if you kill the ACB before the bridge, then obviously you don't have to kill the ACB after the bridge because it's already dead, which means that the bowsprit will be closer to the ship, closer to the pilot seat and the ship, and therefore you won't have time to collect the massage machine. So if you want to kill the ACB before the bridge, then you should collect the massage machine first. If not, though, like I did, if you do what I did, you go to the bridge first, then the ACB, you will want to leave the massage machine behind so that you can have 2 things happening at the same time. But honestly, both of those are acceptable. There's no major difference between those two routes. So I guess I'm explaining things, aren't I? Now, I simply just dismiss their IC stick back in, and then because of that, when I dismiss, the yellows go forwards. Right, I bump into the back of the ball bear to avoid any of the yellows attacking it, and then I zoom the camera in. That stops the blowhog getting involved or the other ball bear coming closer to me. If the blowhog is involved, you want to actually put the yellows even further up. So I am actually going to dismiss them there. You want to put them even further up, like closer to the corner, and then the blowhog cannot blow them. If you leave them there and the blowhog is involved, the blowhog will blow your red yellows and they will get blown all over and you'll lose the run. So if for safety, just put them higher up than I do. But because the blowhog wasn't involved, I took my risk. So, ball bear. It was a bit of an awkward lure in this situation, but just stand in the middle. And it's as easy as holding forwards, this trick. It's really easy. I would recommend you just practice it for a little while. But honestly, when the ball bear is right there, just simply stand in the middle, slightly higher than the middle of the ramp, and hold forwards. I have an actual setup though. The first try every time works every time. Unfortunately, it didn't work in this run, but that's because he had a bit of a weird lure. Let's actually just go frame by frame because I keep going backwards and I'm not getting it. He should be facing towards me still, but he actually was attracted to the blue Pikmin on the ledge. If he was facing towards me still, I would run in, then I would run up again, like I do here. But because he was facing towards the blues, he got so far into the ramp that he wasn't able to squeeze me between himself and the wall. The squeezing between him and the wall is what forces us out of bounds. He was so far into the wall because of that I didn't get squeezed then. I just was on top of him. But that time I got squeezed. And there you go. Right. So we're up on the outbounds wall. I'll start long throwing to the Cronus reactor because I'm cool and it's faster. How do they do it? Your priority now is to throw all of the blues that you have with you and then go down and left slightly so that the Pikmin come out of the little alcove where they've got stuck. The little cap. And then you want to throw down to 20. I actually throw to 19 because I know that it could go to... I want it to go faster because of the potential for Bud Pikmin. But ideally, just have 20. 20 with you now to speed up the Ionium Jet too. Luckily, all of the Pikmin that I threw onto the Cronus reactor grabbed onto it because it's quite highly grabbable. That's quite lucky. Or maybe I did leave one behind. No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, they all grabbed on. It helps you get the cutscene skip if you have less Pikmin on it. But if you have too few on it and you beat it, then you lose time because you have to wait for it to get collected. So it's a sort of give and take. You need to find the perfect golden mean. So here we are. I'm just simply going to whistle my Pikmin and do a bit of... You just hold forwards and C-stick forwards. That section is not hard. And then you grab the UV lamp. Yeah, there's nothing to worry about. And you see, it's got 40 max carriers, but still, I was able to get to the bowsprit and attempt the cutscene skip. I think I failed it. No, I got it still. Okay, cool. 2 text boxes. Now, oh, this was Monka S. There, yeah, holy shit, this part. Right. The trip. This is what caused this, okay? This is what caused the issue. A blue has tripped. Here. There is a blue trip. And because of this, it loads the ball bear much longer than I would like. See, the blue is now running past the ball bear, and it's continued to be loaded. And after that, the ball bear. I just have to load them. Yeah. This is a scary moment, and it's because of that trip that all of this bad stuff is about to happen. But the ball bear is now focused not on the blue that I want it to be, but it's focused on me. Wait here. Fuck you. And in fact, this guy completely ignores the blue that's in the thing. So this one actually worked out, I suppose, and I ran too close to it. Honestly, I don't know why I did that. I might miss the UV lamp, but it's fine. I actually don't know why I did that, but it kind of worked out anyway. I just missed the UV lamp because of it. The whole point of this blue in the little cap there is so that you can make it back in time to get the UV lamp cutscene skip, but I messed that up. I would recommend that you watch my other PB, my 5501, to see how it's actually done, because that section was super, super messy. Luckily, nobody died, and I just kept the ball bear loaded so that it would continue to be attracted to the blue Pikmin that's in the little cap there. I messed that up really heavily. It should be so simple and so smooth, but that was some good improv for my part that I didn't lose the run at that section. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, because there's a chance, obviously a ball bear will eat 5 Pikmin. There was a chance that the run would literally have just died straight up. Okay, so you would collect the UV lamp and get the cutscene skip off of it, and then position the Ionium Jet just before it's about to get collected. Now speed up the gluon drive so that it can be moving closer to max carriers than it was before. Just speed it up very slightly, and then you can get the cutscene skip. This is for the ACS, the area cutscene skip. The timing for this is, well, it's what I do here. I start loading, I think, I do a small load now, but I start loading, yeah, here. So I guess like 2 gluon drive widths away from the ship. Just, you'll figure it out. In fact, that was a little earlier than I would like. So try and be a little later than this. It still worked out though, and I get the frame perfect one actually on that one, and I missed that one. A bit of lag as well. But there you go. That's a pretty fast distance spring, even though it could have ended disastrously. I could have genuinely lost that run because of the ball bear. But yeah, luckily I didn't. And I think I missed 2 cutscene skips that I could have easily gotten. The UV lamp and the bowsprit. Oh well. You know, nothing to worry about. I'm happy enough. Right, so I left 2 Pikmin behind. I left one at the gluon drive area, which is why the reason I don't take 70 Pikmin with me to the gluon drive area is because a lot of them will just get left behind anyway. So you might as well take 66 with you and only leave 1 behind, rather than take 70 with you and leave 5 behind. You know, I think that just makes sense. Also, it speeds up the bowsprit. So I left 2 blues behind. That's fine. That's why I grow using the shear grub. So now I'll hold down during this onion text box to make sure that I'm withdrawing both blue and yellow at maximum speed. Holding down still. I then simply press A and press A again 8 frames later. And it works, right? So I'm going to press A to throw a blue. That means that the yellows get forced slightly further away from me so that I can put them out that way into the water. If they were to just walk into the water, they would actually drown. I want to basically get these yellows to go at an angle in a straight line from. Yeah, okay, yeah, this is a good way to explain it. I want where the yellows are to be joined in a line with the bridge area and this spot here, this little corner of this land. This little, you can see my mouse, right? Yeah, the corner of the land. So there's a straight line between the yellows, the corner of the land, and the bridge area. So I literally just whistle them once and move on. And they are all on the land. So 61 on this bridge, and then the rest of them on this one. As easy as that. That's the setup. You only need 6 bombs. It's nice to take extras, I suppose. Do what's good for you. I don't take extras because I'm a mad bastard. So I use these to speed up the bridge. So I let them grab onto the bridge, and then I throw one. I wait. This is very important. I wait. That's because if I was to throw the other bomb right now, it would also die. And then the third bomb would take a long time, rather than being instant, which it's going to be. So now I wait until it gets to about halfway, then I start throwing. I wait until it lands, and then I throw the second one. If you do that setup, the third bomb should not get scared. Let's watch it one more time, shall we? So, throw the bridge ones first, then I throw one and wait until it gets to around halfway through the clock. Then I throw one, wait until it lands, then wait until it lands, then I throw the other one. And then when they both blow up, that's when I throw the other 3. And then I bump into them first. It's that easy. It's actually quite tricky. I mean, long throwing can be quite tricky, especially in this game where your grab range is tiny. But yeah, just throw one, wait a long time, then throw one, wait a short time, then throw the other one. Then wait for a while, then throw all 3. Watch it back a couple times to try and learn it. Okay, so now in this section, I need 10 blues to push this box. So I like to take more than 10, actually. So I took 11 in this case, so that the more that you have, the more likely it is that you're able to push this box before the bridge is complete. Now, I'm holding only up. I'm holding only up on the C-stick. I'm not holding up on the analog stick, because if you hold up on the analog stick as well, they actually stay close to you. This is so counterintuitive, and it took me ages to figure this out. Let's go back and have a look. So I throw them up. Now I'm holding up until I get to the bridge, and now I'm doing nothing other than holding up on the C-stick. If I'm holding up on the analog stick, they don't work. They don't go all the way to the box. I hold up on the C-stick only, then I press X, and they work on the box. Magnifique. I bump into the idled yellows, and the idled blues don't get attracted to me yet, because there's a short timeout before they do get attracted to me. So the only Pikmin that I'll bump into that will return to me when I bump into them will be these idled yellows. Grab one as soon as I get past that, blow up the gate, and put these on the box to finish up so that they're all in one section. Now this setup will actually take a moment to explain. But yeah, so I've dismissed those bombs and I've left them in the same spot, and I put all the other Pikmin on this box to leave them in the same spot, right? So that it's just organized. And now the only 2 Pikmin I have with me are the bomb Pikmin. I do this setup because it allows me to grab a bomb Pikmin and only a bomb Pikmin with 100% consistency. Now I'm going to whistle these guys, but as soon as I'm done whistling them, I've pressed A and I'm holding A, and I've got a bomb Pikmin in my hands. The others had no chance to get into my hands. Now, this section, I'm holding up, and as soon as I get to this dust cloud, so have a look at the position, right? Just before the dust cloud is when I press A. So I've pressed A now. I've let go of A, sorry. I've let go of A now. Just before the dust cloud, that's where you do it. A full momentum throw. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, just go into the arena and throw in front in the correct position. Now I grab a blue to wake him up. You can also grab the other bomb yellow to wake him up, but that's kind of risky, so it's not something that I would recommend at all. You throw the blue to wake him up. Now I C-stick fully to the right while running slightly to the left. The reason I do this is so that the bombs, the Pikmin will separate in a very consistent manner. All I have to do now is whistle the blues that are close to me. The yellow and bomb are separated. And now I run round and to the right. As soon as he starts going, as soon as you hear the plank of wood noise, like the groaning wood, you know what I mean? It kind of goes, as soon as you hear that, that's when you whistle, and then you start throwing on his face. C-stick throw as fast as you possibly can. Get rid of all of them, and then throw all of the rest of them in his face. Just in front of his face. You want to whistle these guys a little sooner than you might think. It's a little counterintuitive, but you see I start whistling just after he starts jumping. If I whistle any later, they would actually get thrown off. But because of that, I did almost maximum damage, and none of them were budded or thrown off. Now he opens his mouth again and goes, "Arr." Easy as that. So you see I actually do 2 whistles. You might miss this, but I go whistle one tiny, tiny whistle, because I wanted to do it because of muscle memory, but I didn't hear the I hear the so I go again. So let's watch it one more time. I actually do 2 whistles, but I stop myself. Now is when you whistle. Let's have some sound, shall we? Where's my sound? Oh, you can hear it, but I can't. That's good then. Oh, I muted it, didn't I? Bloody idiot. Okay. Silky smooth, man. So listen. React to the and it's that easy. Let's watch the full fight again one more time, because that's the last thing I have to explain, and then I'm gonna go. I'm gonna leave you to it. This has been a knowledge dump. Probably a lot to take in, probably very dry for the casual viewer, but I'm happy to finally get this out here. And it might be able to help some people who want to play this game at a higher level than they currently are. Maybe I've taught you something you didn't know.
That's it.
Maybe you knew everything I said. Who knows, really? Only yourself. One more time. If you're in doubt, feel free to join the Pikmin Speedrunning Discord. We'll happily answer any questions you have. Casual person who doesn't even want to do speedrunning at all, or top-level advanced master, it doesn't matter. We'll happily answer anything that you have to ask. Please don't be afraid. Silky smooth gameplay can be yours. I've given you a bunch of knowledge, but it's up to you to practice. Definitely grinding is a good thing. Definitely knowledge is a good thing, but you can't have one without the other. You can't be a good player without knowing a lot about this game. There is really a lot to it, and I've only done a surface level. As long as this video is, probably what, 2.5, 3 hours? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm not too good at time estimates, but this is only a really surface level. There's much more to it, and you'll be able to learn it yourself in practice. Okay, so the last thing I want to explain is the final pulse load. I slowly load all of the Pikmin onto the secret safe so that I actually kind of failed the pulse loading here. By pulse loading, I actually don't want to do it constantly, right? I pulse the C forwards to collect, to not be collecting at all, to then collect for a little moment, and then not be collecting at all, right? That's why it's called pulse loading. It's not like a consistent but slow dribble. But this is a consistent but slow dribble, and that's why some of them let go. If I'd been pulse loading, I would have got to 95 much faster. So make sure you always just pulse onto it with the C-stick. Don't do a little consistent thing, a constant C-stick backwards. That doesn't help anyone. I was probably freaking out. That's probably why I wasn't thinking straight. But yeah, let's show you how bad that was one more time. Look at that little dribble of blues onto it. Look at that horrible little dribble. They didn't even grab the little spot right in front. If I'd been pulse loading like 3 or 4 at a time, it would have been totally fine. They would have already had 95 like 5 seconds ago. Right, but that's it. If ever the future of this game is changed, no, it won't. It wouldn't. But I mean, there's a timing method of we press our final split button. The timing ends at the secret safe reaching the front of the ship, right? If the timing ever changes, though, you could get the cutscene skip. If you wanted to, you could get the cutscene skip on the secret safe. Who knows? Anyway, that's a message for future generations to deal with. And there we go. I was very, very happy. And I 54-31'd, didn't I? This game is fucking sick. And the community is sick. And I'm so happy to bring this to you. So, that about does it, really. I don't really have anything else to say. This video is way too long, so thanks for watching, and I hope you've learned something.